everybody, and welcome to Movie Recaps with Brit. Today we will be taking a look at a movie titled Newly Rich. Without further ado, let's get started. Tika Wardana attends the top university in town and is a determined architecture student. Meanwhile, her older brother Duta is a student as well, pursuing a degree in theatrical arts with aspirations of becoming a producer someday. Their youngest sibling, Dodi, is a carefree schoolboy who spends most of his days with his friends. Despite appearances, the Wardanas are actually a lower middle-class family living in a cramped home in Jakarta. Mr. Wardana works at a repair shop while his wife sells cookies on a small scale to make ends meet. Despite their financial struggles, the Wardanas are committed to providing the best possible life for their children and have thus enrolled them in elite educational institutions. However, their situation is far from simple. Tika is constantly subjected to bullying by the wealthy girls at her university due to her modest attire and lack of makeup. Duta's aspirations of becoming a producer have remained unfulfilled due to financial constraints, causing him to contemplate switching careers. Meanwhile, Dodi is frequently teased by his peers for wearing inexpensive sneakers. Despite their struggles, the family tries to remain content with what they have and often come together for dinner, where Mr. Wardana provides humor and laughter. The siblings also find ways to have fun, such as sneaking into a lavish wedding to enjoy the complimentary food, where Tika meets Bayu, a man who works low-paying jobs to make ends meet. Although they are caught, the siblings are used to such incidents and flee without worrying about the repercussions. However, their world is turned upside down when Mr. Wardana suddenly passes away in his sleep, leaving the family heartbroken. With their primary breadwinner gone and no savings to rely on, the Wardana family faces the daunting prospect of financial hardship. In light of this, Mrs. Wardana gathers her children to discuss their options. Tika and Duta assume that they will have to abandon their studies, but their mother urges them to continue pursuing their education, as that is what their father would have wanted. To fund their schooling, Mrs. Wardana decides to sell their cramped home, a difficult but necessary choice. As the family prepares for the day ahead, two lawyers unexpectedly arrive with significant news. The family is stunned when two lawyers arrive and play a video on their laptop, featuring Mr. Wardana. Despite joking about being alive, he reveals that he recorded the video a few months earlier, knowing that he might not live much longer. In a shocking twist, Mr. Wardana confesses that he is actually wealthy, the son of one of Indonesia's wealthiest families, and has been hiding his large inheritance from his family for over 2 decades to ensure their independence. However, he now wants them to have the money and live a comfortable life after he's gone. He ends the video by expressing his love for his family. Mrs. Wardana and the children are left in disbelief after hearing this revelation. The family initially struggles to comprehend the reality of their newfound fortune, even after the lawyers leave. They assume that it is a prank. However, when they visit Mr. Wardana's bank, they are presented with a whopping 500 million rupiah. The lawyer explains that they can withdraw more once this amount is spent. Overjoyed, the family immediately sets out to celebrate their newfound wealth. They book the VIP room at an upscale restaurant and indulge in extravagant delicacies. They even invite a destitute man to dine with them. Later, they head to a mall and splurge on shopping. Mrs. Wardana purchases an array of luxurious clothing that she always wanted, while the children buy new mobile phones and other gadgets. From that day on, their lives take a complete turn. The following day, Dodi attends school and brags about his expensive Adidas sneakers, causing envy among his friends. They are shocked that a boy from a poor family can afford such pricey shoes. At the same time, Bayu and Tika begin dating, and when Bayu's motorcycle breaks down, Tika purchases him a new one for 19 million rupiah. They spend the day riding and having fun, but at night Bayu returns the motorcycle, refusing to accept such a costly gift. Meanwhile, Mrs. Wardana becomes fixated on buying exotic clothing and jewelry, spending all 500 million rupiah within 3 days. However, this is not a significant problem as Mr. Wardana had previously mentioned that more funds would be available soon. Later, the lawyers arrive again and present a video where Mr. Wardana appears happy and asks if the family is living extravagantly. He announces that they will now have access to 15 billion rupiah, which is 30 times more than the previous amount. This causes his family to become extremely excited and overwhelmed. From the very next day, they embark on a massive shopping spree. Initially, they enter a large mansion and purchase it outright without any haggling. Then, they visit a furniture store and buy everything they touch. Additionally, they buy off the security guard thereby offering to pay him 3 times his current salary. Subsequently, they visit a luxury car dealership and purchase 3 cars, even though none of them know how to drive. As time passes, the family members become increasingly distant from one another. Despite having all the riches in the world, the bond and unity they once shared begin to fade. They used to have dinner together when Mr. Wardana was alive, but now they all eat separately. Dodi, the little boy, is especially unhappy with the situation. Meanwhile, Tika's former wealthy bullies have suddenly become her friends, feigning genuine interest in her life because they are envious of her newfound wealth. Tika may not have any objections to hanging out with a different group of people, but in doing so, she is neglecting her loyal friends who have always been there for her. These friends had always dreamed of participating in the yearly physics quiz competition and emerging as winners. However, since Tika has distanced herself, they have made up their minds to quit altogether. Meanwhile, Duta, the older sibling, is eagerly anticipating his upcoming grand event. He has spent a significant amount of money organizing a drama show and has been hiring renowned actors and actresses from across the country every week, oblivious to their exorbitant fees. Duta is certain about one thing only: his father has left them with a fortune. Mrs. Wardaner, on the other hand, is fixated on money. Every evening, after picking up her son Dodi from school, she tips generously to street musicians that she listens to. With time, more and more musicians flock to her, hoping to receive a generous reward. Although the number of street musicians grows to over 100, Mrs. Wardaner still manages to tip each one of them generously without running out of money. One day, a bystander captures her act on video, which quickly becomes viral and is even featured on the news. To Mrs. Wardaner's amazement, she is now a TV personality and decides to continue her routine. She starts wearing heavy makeup, carrying more cash, and even gives interviews in which she falsely claims that she has been supporting street musicians for years. Meanwhile, the lawyers keep appearing repeatedly, showcasing another video recorded by Mr. Wardaner several months ago. In the video, he makes some awkward jokes and announces that they will receive another 15 billion rupiah the following day. This news only fuels the family's greed, except for Dodi. Mrs. Wardaner is now boasting so much about her wealth that a reporter eventually asks her if she would be willing to make donations to those in need. Mrs. Wardaner, having set a high standard for herself, agrees to the reporter's request to donate to the less fortunate. She sets a date and promises to provide a substantial amount of food, clothes, and money for those in need. Meanwhile, Tika has been spending an excessive amount of time with her wealthy companions, traveling, partying, and even sleeping over at their place. During one of these encounters, Tika begins drinking heavily, and at one point, almost takes a pill that her friends offer her. However, she manages to avoid it and realizes that she is spiraling down a dangerous path. Tika overhears some girls gossiping about her in the bathroom, which makes her feel awful. In response, she seeks out her true friends and convinces them to prepare for the upcoming quiz competition. On the other hand, Duta keeps hiring new staff members, even though their services are unnecessary. Regrettably, one day before his drama premiere, all of Duta's actors and actresses go on strike, demanding payment before the performance. Later that evening, the family's lawyers bring more unfortunate news. They present another video from Mr. Wardaner, and the family anticipates hearing about a substantial sum of money. However, they discover that Mr. Wardaner has exhausted his savings, leaving the family in shock. Mrs. Wardaner had hoped to collect 200 million rupiah for her charity show, while Duta is in debt of approximately 1 billion rupiah. Despite this setback, the family decides to carry on with their lives. Mrs. Wardaner uses up all of her savings to hold the charity event. Tika, motivated by her boyfriend, prepares for the quiz competition, and Duta requests a powerful politician to fund his drama, offering a small promotion in return. On the day of the event, everything initially appears to be proceeding as planned. Mrs. Wardaner has gathered hundreds of boxes to distribute to the needy. Tika and her friends take the stage for their quiz competition, and Duta's drama proceeds smoothly. However, soon after, things take a turn for the worse. A girl is injured due to the large crowd outside Mrs. Wardaner's home and requires immediate medical attention. During the quiz competition, a group of policemen unexpectedly arrive and arrest Tika and her affluent friends on charges of drug use. Meanwhile, at Duta's drama, the politician takes the stage to promote himself, but instead of being applauded, he is jeered and insulted by the crowd, who view him as a corrupt politician. Despite Duta's attempts to quell the situation, the show is ruined and fails to meet expectations. The entire family experiences a setback on the most important day of their lives. However, Tika is exonerated when her urine test results return negative, and her genuine friends and Bayu forgive her, despite her recent impolite behavior. Upon returning home, the family congregates, but their mood is somber, and they avoid conversing with one another. And to worsen things, the lawyers arrive with unfavorable news. They are accompanied by a man who introduces himself as Mr. Wardaner's younger brother. The lawyers then disclose that Mr. Wardaner left a portion of his inheritance to his brother, who has now come to claim it. Since the family has already spent a significant amount, they must surrender all of their current possessions, such as their home, cars, and so forth. The Wardaner family is devastated by the loss of their possessions, but they also learn that family is the only thing that endures. They come to realize that wealth and fame do not ensure happiness. In the following scene, the family has returned to their former home and are leading a simpler life. Tika and Bayu are preparing to marry, while Duta has finally accepted his life. However, fate has another twist in store for them. The lawyers return one day and present a video of Mr. Wardaner with his supposed brother, who has taken their property. Everyone is shocked to learn that the man is a hired actor. He confesses that he still has a significant amount of savings left untouched, as he has spent less than 1% of his total wealth. To teach his family a lesson about the importance of money and to prevent them from becoming too greedy and losing their bond, Mr. Wardaner lied about his financial situation. He concludes the video by expressing his deep love for his family and promising to continue supporting them, even after his passing. The emotional impact of Mr. Wardaner's message is evident as his wife and children are moved to tears and seem to have learned a valuable lesson. However, the end of the film reveals that Mrs. Wardaner hasn't fully grasped the lesson as she proudly displays a new golden necklace, suggesting she is ready to resume her extravagant spending habits. Thank you for watching our movie recap. While it may seem simple, it actually took a lot of hard work and dedication to produce. If you enjoyed the video, we kindly ask you to show your support by liking and subscribing to our channel. By doing so, you'll stay updated on our latest content and help us continue creating more in-depth analyses and critiques of the movies you love. Thank you again for your support.